Hello, welcome to the Beyond the Questions podcast, because every great conversation starts with a question. We're having real conversations about life with life coaches, and we are anticipating another great episode. So get ready and let's get started.
Welcome back to Beyond the Questions. I am Kellie Grutko. I am founder of Purposeful Pivot, coaching a retreat business for midlife women. And my mission is really just to help women that are experiencing corporate burnout or just feeling like there's something else. I help them transition to their what's next. And before we dive into today's theme, which is thriving through life's transitions, I'd love for each of our co-hosts here to introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about them. So, Ericka, you want to kick us off?
Yes, thank you, Kellie. So, yes, my name is Ericka, and I am a transitional life coach. Well, I don't feel that appropriately describes it. So, just a little bit more about it is I help women who are going through hard things in life, whether that be grief, divorce, transitions, anything that is just hard to process by themselves, and they might need help. They might need somebody to just walk alongside them through a season of life, and I can be there to support them to do that.
Thank you. All right, TQ, how about you?
Sure thing. Hey, I'm TQ, everybody. Glad that you are here on the podcast Beyond the Questions. And I am owner and founder of TQ Solutions. If you're wrestling with self-doubt, fear, inaction, and just watching those dreams that you have kind of slip away, well, I want to be one of those ones to help you gain confidence to kind of recapture those dreams, to really hold on to those and then get to the next level. So that's what we're trying to do at TQ Coaching Solutions.
Perfect. All right, Jason, your turn.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in today. My name is Jason Roten. I'm the owner and founder of Jason Roten Coaching, where I help people align their life around their values and or their business around values and culture using emotional intelligence. And so ultimately an emotional intelligence coach, but would love to just chat with people who are dissatisfied with where they are and want to make some changes to actually live into the things they say they value.
Perfect.
It's great to be here.
Awesome. Well, great. Let's dive in. So we know, life is full of transitions, all different kinds. Sometimes they're obvious, like a career transition or a move to a new place or, a new relationship, something of that nature. But then sometimes they can be quieter, right? Little shifts in priorities or identity. They're all over the place. So today we're exploring a big question, which is how can people truly thrive during life transitions? So I think let's start by grounding this in real life. And I'd love for any of the coaches to kind of answer maybe what are some kinds of transitions that you see people when you're talking with them and in your practice navigate most often?
What I see mostly in my clients, Kellie, is it's transitions through relationships, right? Whether it be a new season in their relationship they're trying to navigate. It's sometimes divorce, not always, which can include a lot of other things. Well, sometimes two people in a relationship are going through transitions in their own lives and they don't know how to come together and do that side by side.
Just follow-up question. Why do you think these moments are so significant? Like the emotions that hit them during some of these transitions you work with them in?
I think we're not taught it, right? Even though we might have, say, our parents did this, that's the only thing we see. Okay, well, say you don't have two parents, say they were bad parents. What if you only had a mom or only had a dad? Or maybe they were the best parents in the world, yet you didn't pick up on some of the things that you need in your own life. So it's just like this whole thing of we should be very independent and know how to do things on our own. I disagree. I think we need help from all different realms of people.
Any other scenarios from anyone?
Yeah, I think when I'm dealing with people in coaching, I am finding them whenever they've got, and this may sound too generic, but whenever they've got some sort of transition that has really shifted something major, like maybe they've made a move or it's a career change. You've got, I don't know, maybe they're empty nesting, maybe they're trying to going to college, these big shifts that they feel like I need to know how to deal with this, but I've never done it before. Those are the life transitions that are sometimes the toughest. Even if you know that they're coming, you just find yourself in it and it's like, this is brand new. I don't know how to swim in these waters, you know?
Yeah. And a lot of different emotions, I would think, with the people you work with come up, right, during some of those kinds of transitions. Yeah.
Absolutely. A lot of them do. It really boils down to, though, fear in some form or fashion. It looks a lot of different ways. That can come out, I mean, all sorts of different ways. But when you really start to look at it, it just seems like, man, there's something that I'm scared that this thing in the future may happen while this transition occurs.
And I think I see a lot of people in career transitions, not moving from one career to another career, but more about like, how do I move from this position to a higher position in the company? Or so that's one subset of people that I work with pretty frequently. The other is, I'm dissatisfied with this habit or this behavior in my life. And so I'm beginning to make changes to my own life to figure out how to do that. In that second set, it's normally a positive thing, right? Like they're making this change. The frustration is coming from where they find themselves, not where they want to go. And so they're happy to make the transition. They're probably the opposite of the group we're talking about today. They're like, oh yeah, no, please, I say I value this thing, but clearly my lifestyle doesn't show that I value this. So help me live into that value or live into that thing. Often in the career, when you're trying to take that next jump up in a company or to take that next step up the ladder, again, I would say I'd agree with TQ. I think a lot of those changes are driven by fear of they don't have the skill set, fear of what happens if I make a mistake, fear of what happens if I let somebody down, fear of what happens if I get in there and I don't like it, or I end up not doing well enough and they end up letting me go. There's all kinds of emotions really centering out of fear that kind of drive those decisions for people.
Yeah. I think that's the common theme, right? Fear. Anytime there's a transition, oftentimes you don't know what's coming on the other side of that transition, right? And it's changed. So people fear it. I mean, a lot of the women I talk to, mostly midlife women that have been working towards something their whole life. They're successful. And now it's like, well, what do I do after the success? What transition do I make? So oftentimes for them, there's no clarity on what to do next. I've been successful over here. Will I be successful if I transition to something totally new? So again, I think, the common theme with a lot of this is fear of change. So, which is a hard thing actually to get through.
Yeah. Kelly, I'm curious when you said that change from they've been successful over here, is it going to be successful over there? Do you find that they even know how to define success in the other place? Or is it something they already have a picture of, or even something that's kind of they're trying to figure out?
It's usually they're trying to figure it out. It's kind of nebulous. They know they want to do
Yeah.
something with more meaning, more impactful, more maybe tied to their values and represent maybe themselves and their values rather than an organization's values and culture. And so, they get nervous because it's hard when you're high performing and very successful to go out on a limb and try something totally different. And now you don't know if you're going to be successful and high achieving. And so oftentimes they don't know what to do next because they don't want to fail at what they do. So they look for things that might be safe to transition to because they know that they'll be successful. But I think sometimes the biggest jumps come when it's something different and maybe it's not as safe, but then it has more meaning towards them when they get there. So, yeah. Good question.
Can
Now
I throw a question at Jason?
Yeah.
Jason, you mentioned that the people you help, it's, like when they're just dissatisfied with a habit or behavior and they're ready for that change. While you also said that this podcast and episode might not be for them. How is it not for them?
Well, I think we were talking about people who are struggling with change. Those people, I think, are ready to make the change. They've been through the struggle and they're like, no, I want change now. I'm not afraid of anything on the other side of this. I'm ready to move on. I'm sure they can learn something. I was just kind of the rest of us were around fear of change, fear of transition, struggling with that. I think a lot of people who are in a place of a habit or a frustration, they've come to that point of like, I don't care what it takes. I will do anything to get over here. And so it's just a different mindset as you're thinking about change in that space. I mean, yes, it might still be for them, but they're going to be like, I'm not afraid of this. Bring it on, whatever it is, because I'm tired of being in the rut.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well,
that's
yeah,
cool.
just thank you for the clarity in that, because I see that also still relating to thriving
Mhm.
through the transition,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
That's good.
Yeah. People can learn lessons from them on how they're thriving and excited, right? And I think that's,
Absolutely.
you do have both sides of the coin, because even in my scenario where I'm talking with women, some of them are like, I'm done with corporate, I'm done with professional life. I am excited for my next move. I might not know what it is, but
Right.
I'm excited. So you get both, both scenarios, which I think is good. Well, now let's make it a little personal here. I'm wondering if any of you want to share a transition in your own life that maybe changed you.
The last 18 months has probably been the biggest change I've experienced in my adult life. And that's not, you could say, oh, yeah, well, you left one career and you started another. Really has nothing to do with that. It's about how I approach life. And so I just think through the coach training, through this perspective of coming in and coming truly as with just curiosity into every space has changed the way I view life, has changed the way I view other people, has changed the way I encounter things that are coming at me. And I would have told you I was a curious person before, but I think I also walked into the room with most of the answers. And so my transition has just been to this. I walk into the room with way more questions in every room I walk into now than I do answers. And the joy and the satisfaction and the happiness that brings. I mean, trust me, there are hard days. There are still things I don't understand. There's still a lot to get done. But yeah, that's been my walk at my transition over the last 18 months. And it's been pretty amazing to live through, to just every once in a while pause long enough to look and see and realize the growth that's happened, the change that's happened, and where I am. I'm like, this is a pretty good ride. So
Mhm.
we'll see.
Yeah.
You are thriving. You're exactly what we want to hear.
That depends on your metric of thriving. But we'll talk about that later. I'm having a good time. Let's just say that.
There you go.
Well, I first just want to say thank you for saying that you've been doing this transition, Jason, for 18 months. Well, which is part of why we're here and learning every day. My transition, if you don't know about some of the things, just go back and listen to the About Us. You'll hear all of the things. Mine has been much, much longer. So I think I'm going on 4 or 5 years now. No, we're in 26. Sometimes I just can't count anymore. And, you know, I used to look at life with, and it's not a bad thing, but I was very regimented, very strict in my patterns. So much so, it's almost like I could have predicted the rest of my life until that didn't work. And it wasn't working over and over and over again. And something had to change. And now when things change, I'm so much better at going with it. And I'm not saying like sometimes they're little, sometimes they're really big. Like you plan a day out and something happens and it changes. And then can become a good teaching moment. Like I have kids, so I can teach my kids, well, we plan that, yet we can do that a different day. Like it's really okay. So it just is like, think you said it right, Jason. It's the perspective, it's my approach on life and how I view like coming into each day. And please hear me out. I am not saying by any way that I do not have hard days, that I do not spend days crying, snotty, ugly. I still do. So, like,
Thanks for not bringing that here. I'm just going to say.
well, still recovering from pneumonia. So if I have to mute myself and get off screen, y'all know what I'm doing.
I mean, bring your authentic self, but keep your snot inside. I'm just, just come on. So we got to have limits to this thing.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I think about the transition that I had. I've had several career transitions, but my first one coming out of student ministry in Houston to I didn't know at first what I was supposed to be doing, and it seemed like music was the way to go at that point. And it was something I really didn't know a lot about. We talk about the industry and how it works. And so what ended up occurring was that there was this change in me from where I had left, where I had just kind of come into, I know what I'm about. I know what kind of person I need to be. And then flipping over to music kind of gave me this room to become that individual. I found myself becoming a little more assertive than I had been before. The change gave me freedom, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And so I felt myself really growing and being stretched. It was super scary at times. I mean, super scary. But I really appreciate the growth that I was able to have, like just personally. I'm not even talking about the kind of music that was made or where I got to play or any of that. I'm just talking about what happened to me on the inside was huge.
We should have you lead off our podcast one time with some of your music. That'd be
We'll
fun.
see. That'd be good.
Yeah.
That'd be
That'd be
great.
cool.
That's
I will
awesome.
mute my
Wow.
microphone.
Yeah, I think, it's interesting that we all, like, we talk about a transition and how it touched us personally. I mean, for me, my story, I left corporate not knowing what to do, no plan, and then I found my way to coaching. And through it all, it was really an identity discovery for me because I so identified with my title. Like if somebody asked me, "Who are you?" my answer would have been my title at
Mm.
work because I didn't know who I was outside of that. And that's a hard thing after 35 some years to now kind of try to rediscover who you are without a big company behind you, without a title. It's like, I mean, it just teaches you to look inside and become the person you want to be. So I think that was a definite benefit to my transition. And then also I feel the people that I've met along the way just teach me, how to, be in different relationships and how people are being very authentic with me because I'm authentic with them. And the more I'm authentic, the more the relationships grow. And I didn't really necessarily have that before. So, I think that's just another positive way that you can look at transitions and some of the positive outcomes that come from making big steps in your life.
I think it's really interesting that these transitions tend to occur from this thing that's maybe outside of us that we want to do. But at least what we've talked about, what really has occurred is that internal thing, this more of you or a new side of you, sort of like a diamond as you look at it, it's got different hues and things as you turn it. And these changes have really caused us to see a different side of ourselves that we may not have been able to see had the transition not occurred.
Yeah, and Kelly, if I can, one, I didn't know that you started as a marketing exec at 2 years old, but congratulations on that. So,
Come on, the wrinkles here, give it
yeah,
away.
that's good. It's great.
Again, no close
Can't-
ups, please.
That's right. The other thing I just want to come back to, I want you to know if you're listening, like not all transitions have to be job related. Like I think
Yeah.
about, I'm in the middle of probably the hardest transition I've ever been through. I've got a senior in high school who's about to be a college student, and how you parent that in that space is totally different. Just so,
Extremely.
and I just say that just because a lot of ours kind of centered around that career move. Like if you're listening and you're going through, there are transitions as parents, there are transitions as kids that you go through. Like if you're a young adult and you're like getting ready to transition out of college into work life, or maybe you're at that 25 age and your parents are just celebrating that you're about to come off their insurance, but you're terrified that you're about to come off their insurance. There's all those things and all those ways. That's probably the complicating factor for me is there's never just one transition.
Yeah.
Like it's not one at a time. Like if we could just take one thing, okay, do that. I'll move here and then I'll do this and then I'll do this. No, it's like, hey, here are these 14 things in your life that are all going to change at once or over the next 4 or 5 years. And I think sometimes that compounding impact of the change or the transition is what we get weary of sometimes.
Yeah, good point. And then some of us in that sandwich generation where we could be taking care of kids, but then our parents too. And that's a transition. Or if your parents are moving back in with you because, they're elderly, there's so many, so many transitions.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that. I'm
Yeah.
right in the middle of a lot of that myself. Like my parents are older and they're dealing with some illnesses. My kids are like, I have one who's graduating college here in May, and then she's trying to figure out her what's next. I've got my youngest is still in high school, but about to graduate out. So we'll be looking at empty nesting here not very long. Yeah. And then we're living in a house that's getting older as well. And so there's me trying to figure out how to be Mr. Fix-It, and I'm not that guy. So, but yeah, I'm so glad you said that, Jason, because that's right on.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
I mean, that's like going to your first question, Kelly. That's what I see most in my clients. It's not career change, which I completely understand. That's where your clients are or mine are. It's more relational.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Exactly. Everyone's going through some kind of transition. Like you said, multiples. Yep, for sure. How can people begin to see some of these changes and these transitions in a positive light? Like we talked about earlier, sometimes people look at it with fear, some people look at it as excitement. How do you think people begin to see change as something that's positive?
Okay, wait. Please tell me you guys have seen the movie Frozen.
Yes.
Wow, finally, one movie. Jason looks confused.
My brother-in-law's an animator for Frozen. He made Olaf look for his butt.
Wow. That's awesome.
Gosh.
I can't
we have
believe you
to
guys
talk.
didn't know that. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's a flex and a half.
Oh,
bro.
Yeah,
People think about
wow.
me as my brother-in-law's a
Can
Disney
we
animator.
applaud to him right
Well,
now?
that's right. Yeah.
I love Olaf. Okay, well, what I was going to say was they have a great song in there, Into the Unknown. And I think that it really is somehow, and I just thought of this. I thought of our previous podcast of the bad sayings while embracing the unknown, right? Which if you go deeper than the surface level of that, it's hard to do, yet when you can do it, and it's like almost expect the unknown, there's a beauty in it. Does that make sense of what I'm trying to say?
So, and also, Ericka, my son just performed in the first high school rendition of Frozen, the musical, in the state of Illinois. But that's a side moment. Kelly, I think for me, when I think about how we look at it positive, I think a lot of it has to do with the transition. And I think we need to be careful about trying to make all transitions positive. Some are.
Yeah.
But Ericka, I think about your story, and there's nothing positive. I mean, there could be good things way down the road that come out of that, but in that moment, there's nothing positive about that. That's a transition you are living and surviving through.
Mm-hmm.
I think when we think about the folks who aren't in that trauma situation, I just want to address that quickly. But when we think about those folks who aren't in that kind of situation going through transition, helping them see who they're becoming in that. I heard all of that as we talked about. I'm different as I've walked through this transition.
Right.
So even just that voice or that person who's walking with you, who can say, I know this is hard. I know it's scary, but have you seen, or how do you feel? Because I'm experiencing this from you, and who can kind of point out the positive things that are happening inside of us. Because I don't see all those things. I'm thankful for my wife who's like, yeah, I don't know if you realize this, but this is what it's like to be around you now. It's different than it was before. Or my kids who aren't nice about it. They just use sarcasm. But it's those voices that help us keep pushing forward. Maybe your transition's a weight loss transition, right? Like somebody goes, wow, are you losing weight? Like it's that voice that goes, yeah, I'm frustrated that I'm not where I want to be yet, but I'm getting there. So I think it's people, and then recognizing the transition around us is what helps us stay positive in the midst of all.
Yeah. I think hope is really important. And when I say hope, I don't mean like, oh, I bought a lottery ticket, I hope to win it, which hardly ever happens, but this hope of where you feel pretty confident that something good is coming of this. When I say coming of this, I don't mean because of it. I mean that in this, I can gain some things that are good. They're not these obstacles. There may be opportunities there as well. It doesn't necessarily mean that the obstacles are fun or that they should be there or that you invited them or anything like that. But it can mean if I can learn to see opportunity where obstacles are, it can help me through the transition, especially if it's a hard one, especially if it's like I feel like I'm getting beat down by everything I'm running into. Like Jason was saying about what's occurring on the inside, that's an opportunity for growth. You know, there's maybe an opportunity for learning something new, opportunity for, man, I would have never gone this direction had this thing occurred. And now I'm headed there. Being able to see that, I think is key. At least it's been key for me, because as I've dealt with several things in my life, that if I don't have that viewpoint, then I kind of sit down and go, well, what's it worth anyway? I just kind of stop and go, well, this stinks and it's going to stink. So I can't spray Lysol on this and make it better. You know what I'm saying? No Febreze action is going to work here. You know, if I don't have hope that the thing is getting better, you know, so.
Can I go back, Kelly? What your original question, did you say how to view change positively or differently?
Positively. I was talking about how you can start to kind of see change in a positive light.
Right. And I hope, although my answer was brief, maybe it wasn't necessarily fully explained. Going into the unknown doesn't mean you have to look at it positively. It's just accepting that it's unknown. And like Jason, even in UTQ, like I definitely am aware of my body now and felt some gut things. And right when I was in the midst of my deepest pain, I really think there was no looking at anything positively, and I was not going to embrace the unknown. Absolutely not. All I needed was for somebody to come alongside of me and acknowledge me. That's it. Maybe they didn't even say anything to me. This reminded me of just a few days ago, I was speaking to someone and they're like, well, Ericka, I'm very sorry for what happened to you. And it was a very long pause. I didn't say anything because I didn't even know what to say. And I just said something like, those aren't really the right words. And I'm not sure how to respond back to you. Well, it's because they also didn't know what to say, which is okay. But I'm in a completely different space now. Whereas 2-3 years ago, that is what I needed to hear, right? Like in the midst of it, I needed to hear that. I needed somebody to acknowledge my pain. And I think, too, what I was hearing from you, TQ, is that, right, like in going through these things, holding on to hope, which we have already talked about, too, in a previous podcast, like when you don't have hope, what do you do? So I think it kind of all ties all of these transitions together, and how you said, Jason, that they are different in different seasons and it could be in different days of our life, right? Like how it's fluid, transition couldn't be daily. So I just kind of wanted to clarify that.
Yeah. What you said makes me think, even if you're in one transition, there's phases to this thing. It's not like all of a sudden you're in it and I'm this now. No, man, you gotta deal with this stuff. Even if you know that it's coming, even if you're like, oh, this is about to be whatever, whether it's about to be great, whether it's about to be hard, even the knowing, you still got to go through it. You still get to feel all the things and go through all the things. And so, there's no cookie cutter. You just do this or you just do that. It's all a process. That's good. That's good insight, Ericka.
That reminds me, I was just with a small group coaching session that we were having, and all these women that were in it they were all on different journeys. They were all having some kind of transition, but very different stages of their journeys. And they're very much getting stuck on thinking they had to like flip a switch and change right overnight. And so the discussion became, no, you fit this into the life that you have, make small shifts as you go. and you're consistent with maybe some forward, movement or action. And eventually, you'll get there. But it's not like you have to do it all at once, because I think that's what makes people stuck. They think, oh, I can't make that huge change or that huge transition. Well, you don't have to. You can do it in pieces and see how it's going. I mean, I think that is a perfect segue into, I was going to ask you, for anyone listening, is there advice that you would give people now on, small steps that they can take during transition, or how to stay grounded during a transition, or any kind of advice for our listeners that maybe they could take away from today?
I think if I was going to say anything to anybody, is find somebody to walk through transition with you. Somebody who you can trust, somebody who you can be honest with, somebody who you can show your frustration or your anger, your fear, your sadness, and who will be there as a calm presence in the midst of that. Because that's going to be the person who helps you get through those moments when you don't want to go forward. They're going to be the one who cheers you on. They're going to be the one who, when you went forward and it didn't turn out the way you thought it would, they're going to be the one to pick you up. And I think if you're going to successfully get through transition, you have to have at least one, if not a team of people who are going to walk with you in that.
And like you said earlier, Jason, they're the ones that see things in you that you might not see. And that maybe you're
Yeah.
farther along in that transition than you feel like you are, but they're noticing your changes. So
Absolutely.
yeah, very critical.
Yeah. Think for the person who heard that and goes, I got no one. You may be able to find some of that in a book or a podcast. It's not the equivalent of a person, but if you're trying to get through and going, man, I don't know that I have anybody for that, you might find a podcast or somebody that you can listen to and go, that's a breath of fresh air. That's a perspective that maybe I can hold on to. And I would say also, believe that you can make it through is going to carry you. Believe it. Because maybe write it somewhere when you're having a hard time believing it, so you can remind yourself and go, I'm having a tough time believing that today, but at one point I wrote that down and that was what I was believing. And so, because those days can get really hard, and just going, man, there is a way through this, can help you make that push through some of those tough times.
Kellie, as you saw us all thinking about our answer there for that question, I felt like my mind was racing. Okay, tips for grounding. Well, I could throw out some really big words, but that doesn't help anybody.
Or another movie reference.
At a movie reference. While what really came to me, and I'm definitely going to preface this with, there was a time I could not answer this question. So the question is, what do I need? And so if you're sitting there trying to get through a transition or whatever it is, right? And you're looking for those tips, right? Okay, maybe you do need grounding practices. Okay, go look that up. There's the day and age we live in, you can find it, right? And maybe you do need somebody to walk alongside of you and you don't have that person, or maybe you have that person. It is a really, really hard question to ask yourself. What do I need? Because if it is a hard transition, you really might not know. While if it is a positive transition, maybe it's a coach, maybe it's somebody else. And I think you guys can hear the emotion in my voice in this answer, because I would say there was years I didn't know what I needed. And I did all the things and I'm sure certain things helped better than others. I don't have the answer for that right now. Well, just try to ask yourself specifically, what do I need?
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Again, positive transitions, hard transitions, they're all there. And I think we need to just kind of take them as they are, one step at a time, and do our best, right? That's all we can do.
I just want to say, if you're here and maybe you're not in transition, you're listening, you're like, this really isn't me. But man, I know somebody who's going through transition. And especially if it's hard, and they're in that spot that Ericka was talking about being in, where they don't know what they need, just show up. Show up and be present. You don't have to have a word. You can just say, I brought ice cream. I just want to sit here and eat ice cream with you. And the power of that to help somebody else get through transition is probably more than they'll ever be able to tell you or you'll ever know. But it can be so vital to helping somebody get through those hard transitions.
Well said. Well, before we close, here's something for the listeners just to ask yourself. If your life is entering a new chapter right now, what possibility might be waiting for you on the other side of a transition? And just know that there is another side. So give it some thought. If today's conversation did spark something in you and you don't want to navigate it alone, like we were talking about, I just want to give everyone a reminder of what these 4 coaches do that are on this call today. So just as a reminder, Ericka helps women transform their lives after hardship or pain or trauma. Jason helps leaders and individuals unlock their potential. And then TQ helps entrepreneurs and creators overcome self-doubt and get some confidence. And then I help accomplished women intentionally design their next chapter after they've had some success. So transitions aren't interruptions, they're just invitations. So we want to thank you all for being here. We hope you walked away with some fresh thoughts and motivation for thriving through your next transition. So thank you all.
Have a great week, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Beyond the Questions. Be sure to subscribe so that you can stay up to date concerning future episodes. And if you would like to connect with any of the hosts on Beyond the Questions, their contact info is linked in the description below. Thanks for stopping by, and we will see you on the next episode of Beyond the Questions.